Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Value Based Care. I'm here with Marie Denzer Farley. So, thank you so much, Marie, for being here. I'm really excited to have a conversation with you because I feel like whenever we're in the clinic together, it's just always unleashed conversations. And I think that's the hallmark for any doctor of that excellent relationship that we always aim for. Like we feel like being, especially in medical oncology, uh, that success that we look for is being able to connect with someone that I feel like that connection that we have.
Well, thank you. You have no idea how much an honor this is. And just to be able to actually just have a conversation with you. I know we usually, when we're in the clinic, we have fairly long conversations, but no, it's much more enjoyable for me as well. So,
Thank you. And then now it's going to be PG rated too. Yeah, it seems to me that for us, it's very natural to have this excellent communication, but for anyone in healthcare, sometimes it can really feel like it's difficult to make that communication connection. And I'm just really curious, what do you feel when it comes to like you're thinking about your doctors or your healthcare providers? How do you feel like, oh yeah, that person has really great communication skills?
well, I think it's usually when you first meet it, it's how the doctor sets the tone. And, the one thing I've always just noticed with us, it was just from the very get go, there was that I wanna say we're comfortable in conversation, talking about anything, you know, and I'm not sure if I think it probably has a lot to do with personality and just kind of putting yourself out there. Because I said, yes, me as a patient coming in, I'm nervous already. So, not that I'm looking for that doctor to put me at ease, but I'm like, I just don't know what I'm expecting when I come in. So, I don't know if it's how they greet you or just something. I know it's odd, but, like, one of my, other doctors, when I was first diagnosed, it was all about the smile. Like, they welcomed me with, like, a smile where sometimes you get some doctors where they kinda have that gruff look where, like, they're just so serious and you're like, "Oh boy," you know? So, you just your mind goes and you're just not sure where to go with that. So, I think it's just how how they always say, "Read your audience," basically, and, I think that was where one time you and I came up with a discussion. I'm like, "Did you have to do some, like, psychology classes and so forth?" "Yeah." And so I think it's all about a matter of personality, reading your audience, and just, like, knowing how terrified your patient is already coming in and not knowing what to expect. So
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you really care about being a great patient. I think a lot of people care about that too, but just you're when you say read the audience, you're really wanting to have a good connection with your doctor too.
well, yeah, I think it's really important because you're entrusting your health to this person that you have they don't know anything about you. They just know what's on your medical records, they just know what your health history is, and there's nothing else there, and, um, you know, I just know that, yes, I wanna be intuitive. I don't know what to ask in terms of questions, so I am looking to you for guide or just any medical my medical team for any form of guidance, and then from there, we figure it out. So, I guess I have to give a little bit of that up to faith too, so and trust in my faith. So, yeah.
And I remember when we started talking about our relationship, it was this the goals of care topic came about for you quite a lot. Like you were saying it was very important that I was appreciating your goals.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
I think yes, I do appreciate your goals because one of the things that resonates with me, like, now till this day is you are all about not quantity of life, but quality of life. So, when I would have my bad days or just my off days with chemo, you're like you would have that conversation with me, and if I said, "Okay, well, you know what, I'm just not feeling it." You were okay with that because you were more concerned. You heard me. You were more concerned about what my quality of life is and how are you doing at this very moment. So, and that's one thing I've just kind of even your care team asks some of those same questions, which is fabulous because they're like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And I think because I've been your um with your client for so long, they know my personality. So, like, they know when I'm off. They know, like, okay, something's up or, they can read me. Yeah, and so, yeah,
And so
and that's what I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah, we appreciate you you are at clinic. And, and it feels like for you, as a community clinic, that really matters for you, that you go to our clinic and you feel like you know the people there and they know you. And there's a lot of communication that goes on that's even a little bit unspoken, where it's just because we know each other so well, we can
Mhm.
kind of intuitively link up a little bit. And
Right.
even I know you, shared the story about how when I was out on maternity leave and one of my colleagues gave you a little bit of tough love, and that this, go a number of ways. Oh,
Oh, yes, that could have gone, like, really bad. But, and it was funny because it was just I don't know what it was about his, persona or what he said, but it was just he he stopped, he listened. He never once said anything. He let me he let me go off on my rant. Basically, I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm done. I'm just gonna" and he's like after it was all said and done, and my husband's sitting there just quietly like, "Oh gosh, what's gonna happen now?" And Dr. Gomez, without just missing a beat, he's like, basically, "Take a breath." And he came up with a compromise, and he's like, "Let's just do this for so long, and then we'll reevaluate, okay?" It's like, just let's just not jump off the diving board now. But, I mean, it was tough love by him, but it was in a sense and now that I think back on it, it was just it was in very humorous form as to how he said it. I wish I could still remember to this day exactly how he said it, but it was just he just didn't miss a beat, and, he was funny about it. So that's I think that immediately when humor or just how something, because especially when you're emotional, it's like, tone is everything or how something is said, it means everything, and nope, he was just as calm as can be and just basically it's like he said it in a humorous way, and I'm like, "Okay." And then it was just like he brought me down, I guess was what I would say. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that really reminds me of how a lot of communication isn't so much exactly what we say, but we remember how people make us feel.
Oh, yes.
And it makes me feel very, just this really warm feeling that he would treat you that way while I'm out because it tells me just how respectful that collegial bond that we have that he would pass on that kind of importance of taking care of you that way.
Right, right.
And I'm glad that, you had a good time.
I just remember the picture on my, husband's face, it was just like the deer in the head, like, "Oh boy, we're in trouble now."
And I just love it when people bring family members or friends, and it's almost a little bit of like a stand-up comedy where you're seeing everybody and how they feel,
Right.
and you can kinda go like, "Oh, okay. I think your husband's gonna be on the same page here if we do a little bit of tough love."
Yes. Oh, yeah, yes. He, he is all about that. Because then he's like one of those ones where we go home and they're like, "Now, see, I tell you." Because when I make certain decisions, he's like, "That's fine, honey, but now remember the consequences of your choices." And I'm like, "Okay, I get it, alright." So, basically talking me off of that edge.
I feel like you're being incredibly humble because it's not like anytime we're in clinic, it's hard to talk to you. Like, it's not like you're on some ledge that we has to really talk you down. But
Oh, if you knew what was going on in my head, oh, it's a whole different story.
but yeah, I think that's a really important part about communication too is there's what we think we're seeing, but then there's another universe going on in your own head.
Oh, yes.
And I'm so curious to the extent you feel comfortable sharing with the audience, just your cancer journey. I feel like people use this word journey a lot, but
Yes. And it truly is a journey. I completely agree with that, because it's definitely no adventure. It's a journey.
yeah,
I know. Where, what were you thinking in terms of to start with
yeah,
my journey? Because, I mean, yes, I've been dealing with this for 7 years, and um, the interesting part is when we did start this, it was completely. I could tell how different my medical care team was, because really I didn't start dealing with your clinic until the second bout. So basically, same cancer, but it came back a second time. And I'm trying to remember when we started that, I think kind of what caught mine and Joseph's attention with you was, and forgive me, I he was he was just amazed at your knowledge. Like, no, and it was truly interesting because there were things that you were mentioning during our conversations, and just different forms of how we could attack the cancer. Um, it was it was amazing as to what you shared with us and how much you shared with us, because I said, yes, the first time, I'm like, when I was told, it literally went in one ear and out the other. And so that's why it was great. They always say, make sure you bring another individual with you, because then um, it's amazing. So on the first time, well, then it was interesting because then when it came back the second time, yes, Joseph was listening, but he was listening to what you were saying. But then when we left there, it was amazing how the roles had reversed. I was more attentive because I had gone through it the first time. And of course, it came back a year later, 18 months later. And it was truly role reversal because now it was going, yes, per se, it was going in one ear for him and out the other. But I think he was listening to what the possibilities and what the options were at that time, and um, that you were willing to work with um, other doctors in ways to try to manage it the second time. So, um, so it truly has been a journey, and through it all, you know, I, I, I know it's such a interesting way of saying it is, but I've met some amazing, fabulous people in through this whole journey that um, I never thought I would meet before. And it goes back to that. I love that saying, and I think I've told you this time and time again. You meet a person for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I could see some of these people in my lifetime where I can continually see them in my life even after, you know, if I could ever get to the word that I've been remission. And I get it. Um I just it, it's part of my routine now. And that was one of the things, Dr. Gomez said. It 90% of it is the attitude and how you decide to deal with it. So, that's how you deal with the journey at this point. So, yeah.
yes. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It really is attitude, and I feel like you're so positive, and and it's one of those things. I know everyone's got the ups and down days, and it's not that you have to be like toxically positive all the time, but you just really, I feel like you really appreciate and are grateful and really take in everything that you go through. to the point where, like, you've told me that people come to you asking for advice?
Yeah, that part is interesting. I don't know if, because you always tell me I'm, like, young. Well, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm kinda in that happy medium." Like, you know, I'm at the age where I feel like I've been through enough experience where you learn, if you're willing to learn as you go and, handle some of those experience, and they always tell you how you handle those experience. But then I'm also young enough that, yes, I wanna continue to live and I still wanna do things and so forth. So I think that makes a huge difference in itself. Um, yeah, I don't know. I, uh, I I like to think that my life experience has taught me on how to, okay, not be so, what do you call that? Where you're quick to just ignite and, like, just fly off the handle. I'm like, I've learned for ages that that's not the solution because it's not gonna solve anything, and all I've done is I went off the deep end and, like, and solved nothing. So, um, and, you know, there's no sense in, yes, can I like, become raged about my, my issues and my cancer? Yes, I could, but again, that's not gonna solve anything, and, and and I think I mentioned that to you, maybe that's part of my journey is, okay, maybe I am here to help others and kinda guide them through their own illness, and maybe by looking at it in a different perspective, then this way they get more enjoyment out of life, possibly? I mean, who knows? It's just, again, you can you can talk to them, but until they experience it, because of course, we all know all of our experience are no experience is exactly the same, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even as we're talking now about your cancer journey, I feel like you're uplifting me. You're like trying to talk about how this has been a great relationship together, which I completely agree. It just really is what you embody, where I think it's probably there's a little bit of that, and I'm probably touching upon something now where people may not feel comfortable,
Right.
which is how do we address someone who is young and looks incredibly healthy and
Right.
is very vibrant, but then you have cancer and not just the first time, but it came back.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people know that when it comes back, it's just so much harder to treat.
Right.
And whether or not to cure something that comes back becomes a big uncertainty. So for you to carry that and be so positive, I think it blows a lot of people's minds almost as much as the fact that this is even happening. Like it can even be possible. Someone so really like a great person like you who is young and healthy, and you are young specifically because you emit energy. Like you're just very, you give off energy to people.
Well, yes, thanks.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because yeah, because what now? What we're on the third bout, right? And how do how do you come back? How do you rebound that from that mentally? And I'm not gonna lie, because I said it seems more evident now how many more people have cancer, and that's great. A lot more people are more vocal about it and are talking about it and so forth. Um, one of probably the hardest things for me is to hear people in remission. I'm not gonna lie, and so I'm like, maybe one day I'll be able to say that. And but then it's like, okay, yes, you want to say that, but then what are you doing to, okay, change your lifestyle or change what could be possibly, you know, keep it from coming back or um just maintaining like what we're trying to do right now is just keep it maintained where it doesn't continue to grow. And I think that's where excuse my language, but my husband, sometimes he just kinda gives me a swift kick and goes, "Well, Honey, today you just need to pull on your big girl panties. So I'm like, I got it. I hear you. And so sometimes you almost, thankfully, I'm lucky enough to have somebody who knows that, okay, I'm feeling it and just doesn't talk down to me, doesn't say, oh, I'm so sorry. And, yes, we all are looking for empathy, but as you can see, I'm like, I try to get up every day. I try to dress nicely. I try to put on the makeup and do my hair because I don't wanna look in the mirror knowing every day. So, and people shouldn't have to look at me as well where it's like, "Oh, there she is, she's sick," and, no, that's because I want to admit that joy, that happiness, whether it's not just for me, but I feel it's for me, selfishly because as long as they're happy, then they're happy, and it's funny because I think I even said that at one point is I only like to surround myself with happy people or positive people because then I can feel it. I can feel it when somebody's negativity comes through or that, and then I find myself maybe kind of a little bit saying it passive aggressively, like, you know can we look at it, like, in the positive? You know? So, uh, for selfish reasons, I do it for myself more than anything else, and, I thank the people around me who realize that. Um, I don't know if I ever shared that with you because, my husband makes fun of me where he's like, "I live in my rainbow, sunshine, and unicorn world," which I'm okay with. So so, it's more for us, as the individual suffering from cancer than it is, or maybe in the same token, you're trying to bring joy, because you are, in fact, happy to see people genuinely happy. So, I guess it's self-serving for both. So,
Well, it sounds like you're still trying to grow. Like as a person, you're always trying to grow. You have this attitude of even if you have cancer and even if you can't claim remission like other people, you still want to be that person who's contributing, who's personally different than the day before.
yeah, oh, yeah.
And you want to redefine what control or certainty means for you, given there's so much uncertainty and you're not going to let that.
Oh, that's a great way of putting it, and I guess I never really thought of it in that perspective, so nice.
Well, oh, see, right there, learn something new. But it also makes us as providers better too to hear that from you because I think that empathy and sympathy are very different, but look and we feel it's different, but it looks so similar. And it's easy to tell someone like, "Oh, it's okay." And we're really just making ourselves as the provider feel better because we're so uncomfortable
Right.
with actually looking at you in the eye and being like, I agree with you. This is really terrible. And tell me more about what really goes on."
Right. But in the same token, it's probably hard for you as the care provider that, as much as you wanna spend that much time, it's hard because there are so many patients out there. So, turning it back to you, how do you where do you draw the line, about because then you do get to learn more about your patients, but in the same token, you just can't provide it to everybody, correct?
That's a really good point on how do we scale communication? How do we scale empathy? And I think of it like it's so crucial that we're teaching empathetic communication and really just really good communication in general. What does that even mean
Me.
to all healthcare providers so that if we're all doing it, it doesn't have to fall on your one oncologist, which is great that we have that relationship, but just like how Joseph's your husband, but he probably isn't your only really social life.
Right.
And then I'm sure that he is a huge person and just like how I feel like to you, I'm a huge person, but I also feel like there is an okayness where we say, okay, this is the time because I know that we're in a community that's so empathetic that you're gonna get taken care of and you're gonna feel that I didn't have to sacrifice a lot of time.
Right.
'Cause I know you'd also feel bad if you walked away and you went like, "Oh, I took up
Yeah,
time."
exactly. That's exactly it. So,
I think of it like a global if all of us providers, like, not just the doctors, but nurses, not just the oncologists, but primary care, if we all really embrace this idea of learning communication, and that's different for all of us. It doesn't have to be
yeah.
like a really strict coursework that you're just sitting through, but what does it mean to have someone really want to come to the doctor? Like,
Well, no,
I want to.
it's interesting you should say that because so being a small town, right? And numerous people going to the same doctor. So you hear things, you people talk and so forth. And that is one of the things and I might, you know, having a conversation with another friend where how we talk to our provider and I don't know. That's the one thing I think I still try to kind of think through how you should communicate with your provider and maybe the right things aren't being said or the right things aren't being conveyed across, by both parties. And so then what happens when it's misconveyed? It becomes where with that miscommunication that deep down they're like, then a little bit of resentment. Or I think that's probably the wrong choice of words. Not resentment, but then like, well, I can't believe that doctor didn't say that, or, well, that's not how I felt with that doctor. So there's gotta be there's there's gotta be a way to and me, I feel like I can be frank, and I think that comes more with my age, where if I was younger, I wouldn't probably have asked the right questions. I probably wouldn't, I'd be too timid to like or not know enough about my illness, where I think some of that, comes from like the internet and so forth. So then they start researching. But I'm trying to think where I was going with that. I just feel like sometimes there could be some miscommunication on the front end, and that's because both parties may perhaps be tiptoeing a lot because you're still trying to get into that relationship of getting to know each other or knowing or realizing, okay, this is what this person is like and so forth. And I think that's where both parties need to learn to give each other grace. And I that's where I think we're missing we're missing the boat a bit as far as grace because we're too quick to snap. We're too bit quick to anger. And then, if one party says, well, this, well, then the other party becomes resentful. And then, well, what happens as human nature? We shut down, right? And so that's been the interesting part about it. Um, it's just we have too much information at our fingertips now that sometimes a lot of it is not maybe not be correct or maybe miscommunicated. Another doctor, uh, and it was actually his nurse. We were leaving my gastrologist appointment, and the nurse said it best. She goes, "Whatever you do not leave here and start Googling and looking on the internet. Let us communicate. We'll figure out a plan, and then we can go from there in terms of because obviously they know people are going to look up information and then well this is what I read. Okay, well that's fine and dandy, but every situation is different, correct? I mean, so I think that's I I I I wish now it's more than ever. You're right in terms of communication, especially if a newer doctor, they're still trying to get their legs under them and figure things out. But in the same token, I was just like, okay, well, both parties need to kind of share some of that grace. So, eh, just another thought. I think that's where I was going with that. Sorry.
Well, once again, you're just so positive and kind because 'cause you're thinking about the doctor, like, even those starting out, which I actually, um, I met you right from the get-go for my career too. We done together really the whole
Yeah.
beginning of my career as an attending. So I can only imagine how much grace you extended me.
Well, truthfully, and I'm not just saying this because we've become great, we've become great acquaintances, and that we have a great relationship. It, I don't, I don't think we had to show you any grace, in terms of in that respect. And the only reason why is it was because of your knowledge. Your knowledge base is what, again, is what attracted us from the get go. And you were you were finding new what do you call that? Like new treatments or new things that were just coming out. And they may have been around, but you did a bunch of legwork during that second bout that just we were like, wow, we that's what impressed us.
Mhm.
So it was just, and you were very open about it. Yes, you can tell at the very get go you were holding back, but you weren't afraid to like say, hey, this is what I think. This is, you showed confidence at that level that we were comfortable in following that plan. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? So, um, yes, it's amazing. Yes, there are some who probably haven't quite figure out how to, what do I want to say? How to carry that across, whether it be their knowledge, knowing people's personality, or even having a conversation. I mean, in this day and age, I do see a lot more people having issues having a good, great conversation. But that's because sometimes we're too busy not listening, trying to talk over the other person while they're trying to talk instead of letting that person finish before we talk or we interrupt. And just being able to feel, and that's one thing, I I feel I've, like, taught our daughter is great communication is everything. She's actually going into the nursing field, so it's just like, okay, well, know that you gotta learn to have some conversation, and you've gotta learn how to be able to talk and not be afraid. And I think sometimes, it's that fear because 'cause they're so busy in, like, their tablets or their phone or on social media that, hey, you it's possible to sit here one-on-one and have a conversation. So, yeah.
Well, I feel like we could talk all these laws, and in clinic we literally do.
Shh, that's supposed to be our little secret.
Oh shoot, just leaked everywhere now. But, yeah, and I feel like it's so generous of you to share your journey so that other people who feel like anything that we've said, it resonates with them, that they can reach out and feel like there's people that they can actually talk to. It's real people, and we didn't get where we're at right now by being perfect. We just tried it.
You try it, you try to be yourself, and yeah,
Yeah.
try you just I guess there's the word right there, at least you just try
Yeah.
more than anything else, so.
And if you fail a lot, like the way I sometimes I feel like at least I failed more times than if an afraid version of me would have tried. At least I like
Okay.
the number of fails was more than the scared non-action. So,
But again, you learned from it, right? So,
yeah, and you learn, you may not realize in the moment that you learn, but that's how I think about communication is not being perfect from the get-go. A lot of times I feel like I'm very opposite of perfect from the get-go, but then reading your audience, like you say, like,
yeah.
"Oh, this is how that comes across for this person, was this person's set of values is this way," and then you can start to calibrate.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you learn that along the way. You learn to, just by being with people and just realizing, okay, you learn certain personalities and how people act and so forth. And, you know who your tone people are, in terms of, oh man, I spoke to them in that tone and they just did not like it. Or somebody who just doesn't They don't they want the sugar coated, it's just and that's gotta be hard for you in general because it's just like you meet so many people, so, you've gotta with you pretty much I hate to say it, it's like almost I think you even said at one time, speed dating in a way, isn't it? Where it was like you kinda have to learn that personality right away just so that you can get to what's at hand, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're quite welcome. It was thoroughly enjoyable, and yes, I agree. If I could at least help one person in terms of their thought process or just how to attack your illness or your sickness, that to help you get through each day. I hope it helps. So. Yeah.